Early Christian art began after Christ's death and lasted until 313 AD, when it took on a different form. Christianity was just beginning to sweep through the Roman Empire, and the movement was so powerful that it changed the face of Roman art and prompted artists to glorify the spiritual rather than human aspect of their work. Early Christian art emerged as the Roman Empire fell into decline. The new Christian religion gave the people of this fast-changing empire just the assurance they sought. What is surprising, though, is that the tenets of this new religion did not permit creation of representational imagery of the divine. However, early Christian artists found a way around the Old Testament's prohibition of religious images. Instead of prohibiting all religious imagery in art, they prohibited only the most idolatrous art form, sculptures, which could be viewed from all sides. Sculptures had been worshipped as idols in the past. Any sculpture that looked like a realistic three-dimensional saint or god was prohibited. But relief sculptures, paintings, and other mediums depicting religious imagery were allowed. This flexible interpretation gave Christians plenty of mediums and Christian themes to work with. An important thing to remember about early Christian art is that the artists of this time came from a wide variety of backgrounds and previous religious beliefs. There was no existing precedent for Christian art, so its style and imagery were completely new. This is one of the reasons that the art of this period is a combination of several different styles and draws from so many different cultures. You can spot traditional Roman symbolism and symbols of pagan worship in art from this period, alongside Christian imagery. The first examples of early Christian art come from the Roman catacombs. After non-Christian Romans began burying their dead instead of cremating them, Christian converts wanted to do the same in separate Christian catacombs. Traditional Romans buried their dead away from the cities, outside of the city walls, and Christians often built their own catacombs close by, mimicking the practice. Wealthy Romans decorated their loved one's final resting place, and these decorations provide our first glimpse into early Christian art. An art form that was common in the Roman catacombs was the fresco. In early Christian catacombs, fresco painters laid quickly stated brushstrokes, one on top of another without blending, which gave the paintings a more impressionistic than realistic style. Frescoes of early Christian symbols like the Good Shepherd, the dove, the phoenix, the fish, and the ornate, or praying person, adorn the catacombs of the San Callisto's walls. The catacombs of St. Domitia are known for their arch-shaped frescoes of Jesus teaching 10 disciples. In this mural, Jesus wears white robes like a Roman orator, holds a scroll in his left hand, and extends his right hand like Roman speakers traditionally did. Classic Roman symbolism is applied to Jesus to communicate his wisdom and eloquence to people already familiar with this imagery. Wealthy Romans buried their dead in sarcophagi sculpted with elaborate mythological motifs, and wealthy Roman Christians maintained this tradition in their own commemorative art. Historical and mythological scenes and portraits, animals, and natural and architectural motifs covered all four sides of these ancient sarcophagi. Most Christian sarcophagi featured a blend of traditional Roman symbols and biblical scenes representing salvation, such as Daniel and the lion and Jonah and the whale. Interestingly, neither images of Jesus nor the crucifixion or cross were featured. Instead, Jesus was represented by more light-hearted, allegorical images such as the Good Shepherd, the peacock, the anchor, and the lamb. Early Christian sculpture was detailed, realistic, and proportional. However, one exception was the distortion of some figures' size to reflect their status. Important figures were enlarged and dwarfed their lesser-known counterparts. and a compositional style that placed smaller figures towards the bottom and larger figures towards the top. Because Christians were severely persecuted, the symbol of the cross was used as a sign of protection and a way for Christians to identify other Christians. However, because monotheism was not tolerated in an empire that required the worship of Roman gods, the cross symbol had to be hidden to maintain secrecy. Disguised crosses were cross symbols disguised as something else. Anchors, Egyptian ankhs, and the Chi Rho, the first two letters of Christ, interwoven to form a common Roman symbol. These were all early Christian symbols that can be found in catacomb murals and other art. Similarly, images or scenes depicting Jesus were practically non-existent. Instead, metaphors depicting Christ as well-loved Roman heroes and pagan gods like Apollo was done to some extent, although the work tended to be ambiguous so as to throw off suspicion. Early Christian art is typically divided into two periods, before and after the Edict of Milan, which is when Roman Emperor Constantine made a decree favoring Christianity. After the Edict of Milan legalized Christian worship in 313, there was no need for the disguised symbolism of early Christianity, and the period of Byzantine art began. Christian art received a big impetus when Constantine himself commissioned the building of several churches, which had some stunning examples of Christian art in the form of colorful mosaics. These mosaics depicted scenes that would guide the faithful to righteousness. Early Christian churches were designed like previous Roman basilicas, with a few innovations to fit their new purposes. The churches and basilicas sponsored by Constantine commonly followed the five-aisle design or had a polygonal central shrine. Mosaics depicting scenes from the Old and New Testament drew visitors' gaze to the heavens in the first public places of worship for Christian followers. Early Christian artists used pre-existing symbols, inspirations from their own faith, and their own imaginations and ingenuity to create a new style that would endure throughout medieval times. Despite limitations and restrictions during the movement's initial years, these artists managed to express themselves, inspire their audience, and ensure that a strong connection between religion and art was forged for years to come.